Throughout the length and breadth of Jamaica, political billboards and flags are up, while the two main political parties, the Jamaica Labour Party and the People's National Party, have been hosting various meetings in different parishes. The governing JLP is trying to create history by winning a third consecutive term, while the opposition, the PNP, is hoping to return to power under a new leader since Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller. But before we delve into the issues on the campaign trail, let's take a look back at the last general election 5 years ago.
Reduce your risk of viral illnesses like the flu and coronavirus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water.
Aside from the political advertisements,
the flu and coronavirus can kill. Let's protect each other,
was one of the many infomercials that dominated Jamaica's airways in the summer of 2020. From how the general election date was announced to campaigning and the celebrations thereafter, the 2020 election cycle was anything but ordinary. It was held nearly 6 months and the country went into a tizzy with first case. With that, restrictions on how people interacted.
I mean, I don't know what to say, Miguel.
I've been preparing from before the virus was confirmed.
So mask wearing, hand sanitizing, and social distancing became the new normal. Or was it? Political parties were forced to get creative in how they engaged the electorate, as large gatherings were banned. Spot meetings were made popular as they tried to limit the spread of COVID-19. Arguably, the fear of contracting the virus was seemingly spreading more than the virus itself. It was reflected in the September 3 polls. Only 37% of the 1.9 million registered voters participated.
A lot of the elderly people in the North Gardens area, Springfield, they're afraid to come out, even with our urgings.
According to the Electoral Office of Jamaica, it's the lowest voter turnout since 1983, when the People's National Party did not contest the election. In the end, the Jamaica Labour Party, JLP, secured a massive victory with 49 seats to the PNP's 14.
There is indeed cause for celebration, but there is also, I would believe, significant cause for consideration. There are many Jamaicans who did not participate.
Were you shocked by the results, sir?
It was unexpected.
The landslide victory triggered the resignation of then PNP President Dr. Peter Phillips, and then came a contentious leadership race for the helm of the party. Ultimately, Mark Golding emerged the victor.
I stand here this evening, having been duly elected the 6th president of our great movement, the People's National Party.
Fast forward to 2025, and the JLP is looking for a repeat, or three-peat as they call it. The party has never secured 3 consecutive terms. Meanwhile, the PNP wants to make its own history as they try to return to office since Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller. And so, when the 2025 general election is called, which party will form the next government? But of course, we'll have to wait and see. Now, the 2020 election wasn't the only time a political party dominated the polls in such a massive way. Take a look at this.
In 1976, when the constituencies were increased to 60, the PNP won 47 seats to the JLP's 13. In 1980, the JLP took 51 seats, while the PNP won 9. In 1993, the PNP secured 52 seats compared to the JLP's 8. And in 1983, the December 15 elections saw the JLP winning all 60 constituencies after the PNP boycotted the general elections. Of note, voter turnout was a mere 28.94%. Stevie and Winter for On the Campaign Trail.
As we mentioned earlier, the JLP and the PNP have been hosting political rallies all over the country. One of the major talking points has been the rural school bus program.
These buses that they're bringing in, these are not pre-owned vehicles. These are retired old bus. Many are over 10 to 15-year-old with hundreds of thousands of miles on the clock.
I'm going to introduce a rural transportation support for up to 20,000 children initially, and we will grow it over time as resources improve. Right now it's only 7,500 get that benefit on the path. A subsidy of $2,500 a week so that they can get to school and get home comfortable.
Peter Bun talking about how the bus are kill off. And here, I wouldn't put my picnic them on that bus. It's picnic them no riding at them the same thing. They are chauffeur driven in air conditioned vehicles. What they take with for? They take us a bunch of idiots.
It's time for a break. We'll be right back. As we explained in the first segment, the JLP has 49 seats to the PNP's 14. In order to win the upcoming election, the JLP will need to keep at least 17 seats to maintain power, while the PNP needs 18. Let's now look at some of the battleground seats. Hanover Eastern and Western, both controlled by the Jamaica Labour Party. However, the electorate have traditionally voted for the PNP for the past 4 general elections, with a shift to the JLP in Hanover Eastern in 2016. In Hanover Eastern, Dave Brown won against the PNP's Wavell Hines with 5,920 to 4,420 votes. He goes up against Andrea Perkis. In Hanover Western, incumbent Tamika Davis will face Heather Miller Bennett in the polls. Ms. Davis in 2020 defeated the PNP's Ian Hales, who is now the party's candidate in Western Westmoreland. That's another traditional seat which the party lost to the JLP's Moreland Wilson in 2020. But it won't be Wilson this time around. Instead, Mr. Hales will face off with Dr. Garfield James, a former PNP councillor turned JLP member. In Hanover Eastern, the JLP's Daniel Lawrence is up against the General Secretary of the PNP, Dr. Dean Campbell. Lawrence won the seat against Victor Wright by just 12 votes in 2020. And in Westmoreland Central, incumbent George Wright is going up against the PNP's Dwayne Vaz. Wright won the seat by a little over 1,000 votes. In Northeast St. Elizabeth, incumbent the JLP's Delroy Slowly is going up against the PNP's Zuleika Jess. Slowly won by less than 500 votes in 2020. We go over now to Central Manchester, where incumbent the JLP's Rhoda Moore Crawford is up against Mandeville's Mayor Donovan Mitchell. Crawford caused a major upset in 2020 after winning against the PNP's Peter Bunting. Peter Bunting is now the PNP's candidate for Manchester Southern. He goes up against the JLP's Robert Chin. Chin won the seat by less than 100 votes in 2020. The Clarendon Northwest seat is another one to watch. The JLP's Warren Newby is up against the PNP's Richard Azan. Newby takes over from Philip Henriquez, who won the seat by 139 votes. In Northern Clarendon, the JLP's Dwight Sibbles is up against the PNP's Wavell Hines. Sibbles won in 2020 by 713 votes. And in Clarendon North Central, where Robert Morgan is up against the PNP's R.J. Dixon. This seat is particularly interesting because of a power shift caused by a JLP councillor in Moko, who crossed the floor and still won his seat in the 2024 local government election. There are a few seats to watch in St. Catherine. In St. Catherine Southeastern, Robert Miller is up against Dr. Alfred Dawes. That seat was won by a little over 1,000 votes by the JLP in 2020. In St. Catherine Northwestern, Newton Amos is up against Damian Crawford. In 2020, the PNP won the seat by 150 votes. In St. Catherine Southern, the PNP's Fitzjackson is up against the JLP's Delroy Dobney. Despite the seat being a stronghold PNP constituency, the last election saw the PNP barely clinching the victory by 150 votes. To the corporate area now in St. Andrew East Central, where the PNP's Dennis Gordon is up against the JLP's Davion Vassell. The constituency traditionally votes PNP. Former PNP President Dr. Peter Phillips has been the MP for decades. However, the last election saw the JLP gaining more supporters here. The PNP won by 759 votes. In central Kingston, the JLP's Donovan Williams is up against the PNP's Steve McGregor. This is another one to watch because central Kingston was a PNP stronghold before the 2020 election. Williams won it by about 200 votes. In St. Thomas Eastern, where the JLP's Michelle Charles is up against the PNP's Yvonne Shaw. And we're going up to St. Mary Central, where Omar Newell is up against Nathaniel Mirage. This seat is also traditionally PNP. However, the last election saw the JLP gaining grounds on the PNP's Dr. Maurice Guy, who won the seat by just over 300 votes. And another one to watch is St. Mary Western, where Robert Montague is the MP. He is up against the PNP's Omar Woodbine. Despite winning this constituency by over 3,000 votes in 2020, the last local government election, the PNP won 3 out of 5 divisions here, which pundits believe signals voter intention. In Trelawney Northern, where the JLP's Tova Hamilton is up against Dr. Wickham McNeil. Despite the JLP winning by over 1,700 votes, the local government election also saw the PNP gaining ground, winning 3 out of 5 divisions. And over in St. James Southern, where the JLP's Homer Davis is up against the PNP's Nikisha Burchell.
Some 2.1 million Jamaicans are registered to vote in this year's election. That's according to the Electoral Office of Jamaica. It represents the largest number of people ever enumerated. But did you know there are dead people still on the voters list? According to the EOJ, it is well aware of the issue that has been plaguing its systems for decades.
2,077,799. That's how many people are eligible to vote in the upcoming general election. But not all of them can vote. Thousands on the list are ghosts of elections past.
There are some persons on the list that we have died, but we can't remove them until we get the necessary supporting document.
Glasspool Brown is Director of Elections. He's acknowledged the long-standing issue. Here's what should happen. The Office of Registrar General provides information on deaths to the EOJ to clean the voters list. But Manager of Civil Registration and Vital Statistics, Monique Morris, admits that there are challenges.
The person may have died this week or a long time ago. They will come back and say, this is not the spelling of the name, the age is wrong, various information. So what we implore the public to do when you're collecting the certification of death, whether the medical certificate from the doctor or the Form D, ensure that you read it properly to ensure that the details are correct.
Data from the Office of the Registrar General shows that between 2002 to 2024, it recorded 409,542 registered deaths. Since 2005, the EOJ removed 285,949 dead people from the list. The gap is due to a series of issues. First is sorting the list to find those of voting age, then identifying those that are enumerated, and then sending a team into the field to verify that they have indeed passed. Additionally, a registered death does not have a unique number for each person, a challenge Ms. Morris is confident that NIDS will solve.
So it will provide a more definitive way of accurate registration as well as accurate updating of the voters list.
Issues like this, however, can give rise to fraud if someone uses the ID of a deceased person to vote. So how then is the EOJ addressing this?
There have been attempts in the past, but there are mechanisms that we have in place.
Mr. Brown says the EOJ has been using technology to verify the identities of citizens.
We do a comparison of your fingerprint with the entire database. So therefore, every individual fingerprint will then be compared to a database which have in excess of 2.1 million other fingerprint data set. And the reason for that is that it helps us to prevent duplication of registration.
Additionally, he says the election day workers are better trained to identify fraud. If found guilty of impersonation, aiding, abetting, counseling, or procuring the commission of the offense of impersonation, citizens can be fined between $10,000 and $40,000 or sentenced to up to 5 years in prison by a resident magistrate. If found guilty in a circuit court, the fines are between $50,000 and $250,000 or at least 5 years in prison. That aside, there are concerns that an unclean voters list negatively impacts voter turnout.
There's some amount of individuals that are on the list which maybe give a wrong indication when a voter turnout is a figure is calculated because you're using a base that is somewhat inflated.
Senior PNP member Peter Bunting argues that the voter apathy being reported, while true, is overly exaggerated, adding that Jamaicans who've migrated are still on the list.
I would estimate that somewhere around 25 to 30% of persons on that list actually are not available to vote.
Equally challenging are those who've migrated and have died overseas. That data sometimes go years without being verified. Additionally, the dead is also costing the living. The budget for the upcoming election is $2.5 billion. At the time of the interview in early July, Glasspool Brown revealed that the EOJ will be seeking additional funds from the government.
In the last election, we printed 1.9. We're looking to print in excess of 2,077,000 thereabout for the upcoming election. We have to print a ballot for every elector or every person that is on the voters list.
Currently, the EOJ must print ballots for every single voter on the voters list. In the case of the upcoming election, it means 2,077,799 ballots.
We have to print a ballot for every elector or every person that is on the voters list because we're not too sure exactly on the day itself how much person are the individuals that will turn up. And therefore, our preparation is assuming that the turnout is 100%.
With the 37% turnout in 2020, it meant that majority of the ballots were wasted. And although the turnout for the upcoming election is predicted to be better, stakeholders argue that legislation, policies, and procedures should be revised to improve the integrity of the voters list and build confidence in the election.
We're at our final break now, but there's more to come. Candidates have been going door to door trying to make a case for your vote. But we turn our spotlight on a dark undercurrent in our democracy, a practice as old as politics itself. Jamarda Lyons.
Voter turnout in general elections in Jamaica has been on a steady decline over the years. 2011, 53.2%. 2016, 48.4%. 2020, 37.8%. In 2020, both the government and the opposition agreed that the public needed to be addressed on the importance of voting.
We must, in this term, institute a strong program of civic education in our schools.
I believe each political organization has to take it on as something that we separately consider.
But is there a link between the dwindling number of Jamaicans inking their fingers, exercising their constitutional right, and the growing reports of politicians resorting to buying votes? I put the question to political analyst Damian Gordon.
The promises of politicians can no longer sway them to vote. And even candidates with good ideas may not be sufficient to sway them to vote because they've reached a level of disinterestedness, which means that increasingly, in order to get some of them to vote, you have to provide some form of incentive.
The fact that politicians are willing to comply, Mr. Gordon argues, is a sign of failure.
The fact that you buy my vote, it does not mean that I am engaged. It doesn't mean that I'm enthusiastic. It doesn't mean that I hold you in a regard. I'm just thinking about the immediate and the direct material benefit of voting. So that does not address the broader issue of apathy.
In an opinion piece in The Gleaner in 2020, social anthropologist Dr. Herbert Gale said 3 variables influence vote selling: economics, apathy, and age. He added that Jamaicans who expressed both parties were bad were more than twice likely to sell their votes than traditional voters.
Labour rights help me. I may keep my fish fry the 28th of this month because I want to put them upstairs and then buy my 3 bag of chicken and then me a vote for.
So what if the PNP had bought you the same thing?
I'm just gone over to PNP. I'm not ask the price. And better party sale. Says PNP come right now. I'm going 4 bag of chicken and that's my thing there.
Some older Jamaicans say their integrity comes first. If a politician were to approach you right now, offer you money to vote for him, would you do it?
My response would be no, sir. Because at the end of the day, we all should keep in consideration that we need to have a society built on honesty, integrity.
Not amount of money. I would not switch. No, I don't sell votes. I don't want to sell my vote.
On the flip side, Daniel Archer, Principal Director of the National Integrity Action, says vote buying isn't limited to giving someone cash in exchange for a vote.
Our voting buying is not just to tell you to go and vote, you know. Sometimes the vote buying is to tell you to turn on your yard. Politicians use different strategies, yes? So it's highly unlikely that you're going to see any particular politician making that exchange. They'll often use brokers or persons who are close to them.
Mr. Gordon says politicians sell hope, and hope is a delayed benefit.
So we find that instead of waiting for the politician to do something in the future that may not materialize, more voters are now, now demand immediate or direct benefit from their political representatives.
Meanwhile, both political parties have denounced the act of vote buying. PNP General Secretary Dr. Dayton Campbell told the TVJ News, quote, "The People's National Party believes in fair elections. We believe that ideas should contend and that people should be able to make informed decisions based on the policies and programs that they can identify with that will uplift their country, their community, and their families." End quote. JLP Secretary Dr. Horace Chan, quote, "Vote buying is illegal. The Jamaica Labour Party therefore doesn't condone it, encourage, or engage in that kind of activity. We would condemn it and advise our candidates to not do it any at all. The allegations exist, but vote buying is not as extensive as it is purported." End quote. In part 4, we explore the future of elections with persistent vote buying. Romarda Lyons, TVJ News.